What's up guys, my name is Saib and welcome to another episode of this Canvas game development series. And I'm happily announcing that we are done with the basics. It's time to actually build some games. And I thought of a first game to actually begin with. I thought of Bong, since everyone usually starts with Bong. But I think Roll the Dice is actually the first one to actually begin with. It's simply a game of rolling dices or throwing dices. You know, the usual dices with the 6 outcomes, those 2 dices. And this game will teach us the basics of pseudo random processing in JavaScript, which allows us to actually deal with random numbers. And I feel like this is the first topic that any game developer should actually be familiar with, to be able to determine or just implement a random numbers generators, or simply for a specific reason in the game. So this Roll the Dice game, or simply the dice game, is we're gonna throw some dices. It's gonna be 2, and the idea or the concept of this game, or the game design, the storyline of this game is that if you roll the dices like that, you have the sum of these 2 dices. In our case, we have a 9. So if we want to actually win this game from the first throw, we either have 2 cases. If the sum is actually 7 or 11. So if we got 7 or 11, we're gonna win the game directly from the first throw. While if we didn't, it's gonna be, and if we just lost the game, it's gonna be 2 or 3 or 12, which is specific cases. So yeah, if I got 7 or 11, I'm gonna win the game. If I got 2, 3, 12, we're gonna lose the game. And if we got anything else, we're gonna have to throw again. So we have a follow-up throw. And in this second throw, or simply going to be the 3rd or 4th or 5th, what we have to do to win the game is to get 9 again. If we didn't get 9 and we got 7, we're actually going to lose the game. So if I actually throw the dice again, I didn't get either 9 or 7. If I get 7, I lose. If I get 9, I win. Any other cases, I'm going to keep throwing the dice. So again, I'm going to throw the dice. It's nearly 9. It's 8. Okay, so I'm throwing again. Nothing. No 7, no 9. Okay, I got 9. I win the game. I got actually 20 points. And for each time that I play the game, I'm going to take 20 from the credit. And if I win, I'm going to get 20 again. Maybe we can increase that. It's easy. So, okay, if I want to throw the dice again and to play a new game, I'm going to take 20 out of my credit and actually play this. So I got 10. So either now I have to get 10 or simply get 7 to lose. So I'm just gonna go again. Okay, I got 7, so I lost the game. I lost my 20. And yeah, simply if I keep doing this until I run out of credit, so that you actually see the end of the game. Okay, you ran out of money, add some more and try again. So simply this is the game design and the storyline of this game, or how this game is actually played. So this is not my game. This is actually a game from a book that I last read, and I'm gonna leave a reference to that in the description. But I thought it's actually a good game to start with, since it teaches us the pseudo randomness, or the pseudo random processing, especially in JavaScript. So yeah, generating random numbers and everything. Okay, I'll see you from the beginning of actually building this game. Okay, what's up guys? Okay, starting from the beginning of building the dice game, or roll the dices. Okay, we're gonna do everything from the start, from scratch, and we're gonna end up with the results that you saw in the intro, with the intro part. So the first thing that we're actually gonna do is change our title. Simply roll the dice, or yeah, roll the dice works fine. Now you can see that I added a comment in here, in which is just a string that says your browser doesn't support HTML5 Canvas, and this is actually will show up if the browser doesn't support Canvas, and Chrome actually supports it, so it's going to show, the Canvas is going to show. For those browsers, or if there's something wrong, you're going to see this, your browser doesn't support HTML5 Canvas. So you can add it or not, but I advise you to add it. It's a clean code. Okay, so starting from the beginning, what we're going to do in here is we're going to you saw the game design. We're going to have 2 dices, and we're going to have a button to actually click and dice, and we're going to have this results at the end for the credit, for the outcome, for the points as well. So the first thing I'm gonna start is to implement the first dice. Since the second dice is just gonna be the same, we're just gonna position these two together after all. So the first thing we should do is specify some variables that will help us to construct our dices. Okay, so we have a canvas of 500 by 500. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna specify some variables for the dices. So the first thing I'm gonna say dice x, which is the horizontal positioning of the dice, and which is the x-axis, along the x-axis. And we're gonna have the y1 as well. So I'm just gonna say in here I can make it 40 for instance. One dice is y, which is 40. This is the horizontal one and this is the vertical one. Simply this is the starting point from where I'm gonna draw the rectangle. So I hope that makes sense. We've gone through the rectangles and the starting points and all. You should be familiar with that by now. The other thing we're gonna specify is the dice's width and height, which is the rectangle, aka the dice. So the width I'm gonna make 100 by 100, and the dice height is 100 as well. It's gonna be 100. So we have this square, not a rectangle, which is a cube one. Dice, sorry. Okay, the other variable that we're gonna specify is the dots radius. Since we have a dice, it's gonna be dots in here. So I'm just gonna say dot radius that way. And I'm gonna give it a radius of 6 or 5, seems fine. The other thing now we have to do is I'm gonna divide the game into functions. Like the first function is gonna initialize, and in this initialize function we're gonna actually use or pick up our random number, and then we can actually draw it with a different function. So the first function I'm gonna call it initialize. Like that. Now, let's talk about the pseudo random that I was actually talking about. So let's say that I want to pick a number from 1 to 6, which is the outcomes of a dice. So if you look at here and you search for dice outcomes, and you look at the outcomes of the dice, you can see that we're gonna have, let's just open that, so that actually shows up. We have this is sample space, which means all the outcomes of a rolling a dice. So yeah, this is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're gonna have to generate numbers from 1 to 6. So we've gone through the pseudo random in previous episode, I think in the JavaScript functions episode and in the loops one. So if you want to actually generate a random number, we use math.random in JavaScript. So this is used for pseudo random or pseudo randomness. So okay, so let's create a variable for that, and let's say roll dice roll for instance, because each dice roll there's gonna be a number in that actually shows up. So and then we're gonna call math round like that. Okay, math round actually returns a floating point number that goes from 0 up until 1, excluding 1, which means that 1 is not gonna be returned like ever. So it's gonna be from 0 up until 0.99, and actually it goes after that. So if I multiply, or I actually multiplied this by 6, let's say, now we're gonna have a values from 0 that goes up until 6, excluding 6, which means that 6 is not gonna be included. So it's gonna be from 0 up until 5.99, but that's not the exact value, but to actually ease things and to understand it. So if I want to actually round that one, I can use the floor function. The floor one is gonna return an integer instead of a floating point, and this floor rounds down that number. So if we got, let's say, 1.5, we're gonna get 1. If we got 5.5, we're gonna get 5. So looking at this, the highest value that we're gonna get, let's say it's 5.99 for instance, or 5.999 that goes after that. So it's gonna be rounded down to 5. So if you're actually understanding this, the only results that we're gonna get from this is from 0 up until 5. So to actually increase that, we're just gonna add 1. Simply by adding 1, the least value is going to be 0, it's going to be plus 1, it's going to be 1. The highest value is going to be 5, plus 1, it's going to be 6. I hope that makes sense. We've gone through this math random in the previous episode. I think you should check that one. It's in the JavaScript and loops function episode. Okay, so now the dice roll, this one, will return a value from 1 until 6. Since we got the dice roll, and it's going to be from 1 until 6 as we specified. So the other thing that we're going to have to do now is simply just draw the faces of our dice, or simply just draw each side of our dice, which is the face of our dice. So simply I'm going to call that function draw face like that, and I'm going to pass in the dice roll, since this is the actual face that's going to show up in our dice. Okay, so it's draw face. Now let's talk about the function. It's going to be draw face, and it's going to take an argument. Let's call that D for dice roll. Okay, now to draw the face, first thing we're going to do is actually specify a line width, for instance, since we're drawing actually this rectangle. So I'm just going to say line width, and I'm going to give that a value of 5. And then what we're going to do is we're going to specify before we actually draw our rectangle, we're going to clear and draw, since we're going to have more than one face. As I said, clear and draw again is like 4. So that we clear and draw again, there's nothing to actually explain in that. We've gone through the clearing and drawing again. So it takes from 0 to 0, and we're going to take our whole dice. So simply it's going to be the dice width and height. Because we're not clearing our whole canvas, as I said, only the dice, so that we change between faces every time we click on the roll dice button. Okay, we specified the line width. We have to specify the stroke style, for instance. Stroke style. I'm going to have a red one for the cube, for the rectangle or the dice stroke. And then I'm simply going to fill style. Before we actually fill that one, let's go with the actual dice. So it's going to be stroke rectangle. Okay, now for stroke rectangle, we're going to pass in the dice as X and dice Y, and we're going to pass in the dice width and height. That way. Okay, nothing shows up because we haven't actually called the function. Okay, so let's actually add the fill style for that one. It should be black, so let's keep it black that way. Okay. Let's say that I want to actually show this by simply introducing a new button in here that calls. So if I added the break one, okay, this is a break. Okay, break is to add a new break line, so simply just skips a line. I hope you're familiar with HTML tags, because we're going to use a simple one, so I'm going to explain it as we actually move on. So the break is simply to break a line, and the other one is the button one. Simply like that, and we're going to now specify an action for that. So simply I'm going to say on click, which is the action for that button if I clicked on that. And now on click, I'm just going to call this initialize function that way. I'm going to pass it in here and add the comma, and I'm going to add a name for that button. So let's say roll dice, or simply just throw dice. So if I save now, I'm going to have this throw dice. So every time I click this throw dice, it's going to initialize, and it's going to draw the actual face. Okay, so initialize. Okay, I'm going to save now. Okay, I'm going to draw the face. I'm just going to fill style and draw face. Everything seems to work fine. I don't know why it's actually not working, so I'm just going to stop the board and actually go live again. See what we're actually missing, and I'm gonna throw. Okay, it's actually just refreshing that one. Okay, now we have our dice simply standing in our canvas area, that one, which looks like an intro one. Okay, that's just the beginning. Okay, now let's talk about the next one, in which is we're gonna talk about this, the outcomes of our dice. So as you can see from this screenshot that I kept in here, the sample space is that we're going to get 6 outcomes. So the first one is going to be just draw a dot in here, and the other one is going to be 2. The third possibility is the 3 one. Now in this 3, we don't need to draw that aside, since we're drawing each frame using the arc method. It's not in images. I know we can use images, but I thought we should make this as simple as possible, so that you actually start from the beginning, because I don't want this to be an advanced game. We're gonna start simple and easy. So we're gonna draw all of them, and so that you get familiar with the arc method. So it's gonna be 1 and 2, and then we're gonna just in 3 in that frame, or in that case, we're just gonna draw 2 and 3. Simply, if you draw these together on the same dice, you're gonna have 3. 4 has its own case. Now in 5, we're gonna just use 4 and 1. I hope that makes sense. And 6, it's gonna have its own state. We're gonna use 4 and 2 mids, which is different than these two, since the positioning of the arcs or circles are different. Okay, so now let's introduce the new switch statement. We've talked about switch and the cases for switch. And in this switch, I'm gonna pass in the D, which is the dice roll. That one is the argument. And this dice roll has 6 cases, as I said. So let's talk about the first case, in which is 1. So in the first case, we're gonna draw 1, which is simply the drawing of this first frame, which is simply a dot in the center of that dice. Okay, and then we're gonna break from our statement. I'm gonna use now case 2. Case 2 also requires its own frame, its own drawing, since we can't sum any. Okay, I closed that one. Okay, you got the idea. So now I'm gonna go draw 2, and I'm gonna break that one, and then we go to case 3. Now case 3, simply we draw 2 and 1. So if I draw 2, and then I draw 1, we're gonna get the 3 outcomes, 3 dots outcome. So let's break now. Break. Okay, now it's gonna be case 4. It's gonna be draw 4 side alone. Okay, break again. Now case 5. Case 5 is simply gonna be 4 and 1 again together. So yeah. Draw 4 and draw 1, and we're gonna break. Now lastly, case 6, which is the last case or the last outcome, possible outcome. And this one is simply gonna be draw 4 and draw 2 mid, which means that we're gonna draw 2 in the middle of that dice. Okay, so simply everything works fine until now. And now that we're done with the draw phase, we have to go with each draw function in here. So simply let's try to actually draw 1 and test that one. Okay, so draw 1. So the first thing I'm gonna do in the draw 1 is we're just gonna specify the dot x and y, which simply are the horizontal and vertical positioning of the dot inside that dice. Okay, so let's say a variable, and say dot x, dot y. Now we're gonna actually start by calling the begin path, since a new shape or a new dot that has its own properties, as I said in previous episodes. Okay, now let's actually update the positioning of the dot x and dot y. So let's say that we have a dice. So, and this dice has a width of 100 and a height of 100. So if I start to draw this circle, I want this to be in the center. So simply I'm gonna give the dot x a beginning of the dice x, and I'm gonna plus that with half the dice's width. So yeah, simply I'm gonna start at the dice x, which is the top left of our dice, and I'm gonna move half the width, so that's actually in the center. Now I'm gonna move in the y the same with the same idea. So now I'm gonna go with dot y, and we're gonna go with dice y plus half the dice height, that way. Now we're actually gonna draw it with the arc method, and we're gonna pass in all of these methods. So dot x for the starting point for the center of this circle, which is dot x and y. And now we're gonna specify the radius that we specified in here, which is 6. So we're gonna pass in dot radius, and it's gonna be from 0 up until 2 math by, and it's gonna be 2. It doesn't matter, it's a full circle. So now we're gonna close the path, and we're gonna fill everything. Okay, we're gonna actually break that one in here. I don't know why I forgot that one. Okay, now you can see that the fill actually follows that one that we specified, which is the fill style. So yeah, I don't know why I specified this in here, but it's fine. Okay, now we have the draw one. So let's say that I have the case one, the first case. So if I want to remove this just for now and actually add one, so one is going to be added. So if I throw the dice, the first frame is going to be added. We're going to do the same thing for the other ones. I hope that makes sense. Now we're going to actually code faster than the beginning, since we explained everything. Okay, so let's everything back to normal that way. And let's save now. Let's draw 2. Now draw 2 is going to be exactly the same concept. What we're going to do in draw 2 is simply specify the x and y to be you know, like the way that we saw it in the dice, one up here and one up here. So simply if I just said variable dot x and variable dot y, now we're going to begin the path. Begin path that way. Now we're going to have to specify the dot x and dot y. So I'm going to give it the starting point of the dice is x, which is the top left of our dice, as I said. And what we're going to do exactly here is we're going to multiply the dot radius, which is 6, by 3, which means that we're going to go to the center of this dot will be 3 radius lengths over the upper side of the dice. So simply if I just said multiplied by the dot radius, the same goes for dot y, dices y plus 3 multiplied by dot radius. This is just the top dot of our frame 2, which is the 2 outcome. So yeah, it's actually simple mathematics. We go actually to the 3 radius lengths. So simply we can get this angular or the diagonal 2 dots that are facing each other. Okay, now we're going to actually draw them. This is the first one, the first dot. We're going to have 2 dots for that, and dot x, dot y, dot radius, and it's going to go from 0 until 2 math dot y. It's going to go to. Now we're just going to close the path for that one. And you know, we're not closing the path actually, we can just keep it. We can close the path and begin another path for the other dot, but it's fine if we kept it, since both of them are going to have the same color and the same everything. So now I have to specify the dot x and y for the other dots. I'm going to keep using the same variables because we actually do that one, so now we're going to do the new one. Now the same thing goes for that one, but what we're going to do in here is that we're going to give this dot x the value of dice x plus its width, so that starts at the end, and then we're going to minus the 3 radius lengths, so that it's on the downer side. So simply let's say dice x plus dice's width, and we're going to minus that 3 multiplied by dot radius. I hope that makes sense. It's the same thing, but it's from the other side, so that we went to the last point on this dice horizontally and vertically, since we summed that with the dice width, and then we minus that with the 3 radius length. That's y plus the dice height minus 3 multiplied by dot radius. Okay, let's draw that again to use the same function, and okay, now we can actually close the path, and we're going to fill. If we want to check that one, we can go and replace that with 2 to actually show, and if we roll the dice, you can see the 2 as expected. Okay, so let's come back and give it everything in values. Okay, save, fill. Okay, now in the case of 3, simply is gonna, case 3 is simply gonna draw the second one and the third one. So if I actually inserted the 3 in here, okay, I'm gonna save, and you're gonna see that it's gonna be these 2 are drawn, and then the one in the center. So yeah, okay, save again, and now let's go to case 4, which is draw 4. Function draw 4. Now this function draw 4, we're gonna specify a dot x same as we did in the previous one, and we're going to specify dot y. So okay, now we're going to begin the path same as we did. So now everything is actually, you're just going to have to adjust these values. I know using images can be actually easier, but I want you to be familiar with the begin path and just practice that one so you can actually just be familiar with the syntax and everything. And we're going to use images in the upcoming games. So yeah. Now .x, the first one is going to be actually same as what we did in the second one at the top, the double part. Okay, it's going to be dice x plus 3 multiplied by dot radius, that one. Same goes for y. Dot radius. Okay, so let's draw that one using the arc method. Well, let's copy that one so that we actually don't waste time since it's the same. Okay, now for the draw for, we're going to actually use the same as in that one, so it's going to be the same. And we're going to context, and we're going to call the arc again. Let's copy that one. And let's close the path now. And let's fit. So yeah, until now everything makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. Now what we're gonna do is simply just change the values of the x and y. So simply if I just say dot x is gonna be equal to dice's x, which is the starting point of our dice, as I said, and then we're gonna add that to 3 multiplied by dot radius, so that we can actually have the same case as in the 2-1. Okay, so these are just 2 dots. Now we're gonna draw the other 2. So dot y, and then it's gonna be dice's y plus the dice's height, and it's gonna be minus the 3 dot radius. If we try to make sense of these, we're just using 2 cases, which is the first one, which this is actually going to give us the diagonal look of the dots, that one that look that way. And if I minus that with the height, I'm going to get that at the end. So I'm trying to have those 2 diagonally, but like in an opposite directions. So yeah. So I'm going to copy the arc again, and that way. Okay, now let's draw the last one, which is dot x, which is going to be dice's x plus the dice's width minus 3 multiplied by dot radius. And now in our cases it's inverse. dy is simply going to be dice y plus 3 multiplied by dot radius, and we're going to draw that arc using the arc method. And that is everything for this. So you can just say, so we have the first point, we have the second one, we have the third one, and we have the fourth one, like that. Okay, so let's just fill that one and close the path. Okay, I didn't close the path, so simply I can just say close the path. Okay, so if we try to actually use that, since we're actually going to check every time so that we don't run into errors or anything, so I'm going to save, throw the dice. Okay, seems that we misused some of the close paths and everything, so I don't know why I did this one. I think that's a problem. So if I just throw the dice, okay. Oh, I forgot to actually just do that again at every time these 2 draws are drawn, so simply I close the path before, and I'm just gonna close the path. Oh, we didn't begin path in here, so simply for each 2 I'm gonna begin a new path. Yes, so if I throw the dice now, everything works fine. So yeah, begin path and close path. I've talked about this a lot. I know sometimes we actually make mistakes with this, but you just have to be familiar with that. So, okay, let's add to the default one. Okay, I didn't copy that one, so I just have to write that one again. Dot floor random 5 by 6 plus 1. Save. Okay, now we got 3 as random 1. It's a good thing that we didn't get 6 for instance, because we didn't. Now we have the last function, which is the draw 2 mids. We're simply going to draw 2 in the center of our dice. So function draw 2 middle that way, which is the last function. Okay, so this is actually very simple. So the first thing we do is dot x and dot y, same as we did in the previous ones. Dot y. For the second dice, we're just gonna position a different. We're just gonna offset these two dices from each other. It's gonna be the same code. I'm just gonna go to that after we finish that one. So let's begin bath. And then let's specify the dot x starting horizontal position, simply going to be the dice x plus 3 dot radius, so that it's 3 radius lengths on the upper side. And then we're going to use dot y, which is dice y plus 0.5 multiplied by dice's width, dice's height, sorry. Since we want this to be in the center, so it's in the center, but it's 3 radius length, so simply it's in the center of the first side of that one. So simply just it goes in the middle of that one. Okay, so now let's actually use the arc method. I'm gonna copy that one so that we don't mess with everything. And now we're just gonna draw the second dot, which is simply gonna be the opposite of that one, so it's gonna be dice x. But now it's gonna have the value of the dice x plus the dice's width, and then I'm gonna just minus that with 3 multiplied by dot radius, and the y is gonna be simply dr dicing dice y. And lastly, this, so the first dot in here, this is the first dot. Now the second one, this one goes from the beginning, and we're gonna add the dice's width for it, so it goes to the end. Now we minus that, same as we did in the second one, in the second side, that one, so that it's at the end, but it's 3 radius lengths from the right side. So yeah, now we're gonna push that down, or just move it in a vertical to downside that way. So simply we're going to specify the dice y to be plus, same as that one, so it's on the same level. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Now I'm going to call the arc again, and we're going to close the bath, and we're just going to fit. Okay, we're done with the draw 2 mids. So if I said, for instance, case 6, we're going to see that everything works fine. Just going to copy that so that I don't actually miss it. Now if I click again and throw the dice, we got 6. So now we covered all of the cases. So simply if I throw the dice in any case, we're going to get, okay, we're going to have random cases, everything, we got all of the states correctly. So these are actually 5. Okay, that's 6. I think there's something wrong with that one. Just gonna check for that one. It's gonna be 4 and 5. Okay, we got 4, we got 3, it's 2 and 1. We got 2, we got 1. So simply if I just try with that one. Okay, that's 1. It's gonna be fine. Oh. Okay, that's 1. It's 2. I don't know why it's actually. Okay, 3. Everything works fine. 4, okay, 5 is gonna be 5 that way, and lastly 6 is gonna be 6. Everything works fine. We got the 6 states. What we're gonna do now is simply just We did this on a click, so that is the idea of throwing the dice. Now we're gonna apply this to the second one, and it's the same concept. We're gonna use a lot of the codes that we actually did in here. So by clicking on throw dice, okay, I think there's something wrong with actually clicking on that, so I don't know if it's drawing thing, so let's check. So we clear and then we draw that one. Okay. Okay. Since we see if the clear one in here is supposed to be from the starting of this dice to the end of it, I don't know why I'm clearing the whole canvas until the end. So I have to specify the dice X and Y in here. Okay, that was a silly mistake. I don't know what's happening. Now I'm gonna throw the dice. Everything's gonna work fine. Throw the dice again. X and Y. Width and height. So if I just refresh that one, okay, got keeping that one. I don't know what the mistakes, man. Math.random divided by 6 plus 1. Okay, now look, we got all of the cases working out perfectly. So everything's perfect, we've done everything. Now we got the 6 cases, and it's we can't even determine that one, so we can actually play the game after we finish it. So because we can't expect the result, it's pseudo random, as I said. So now let's move on to actually building the other one, which means that we're gonna build the second dice. And this is simply done by introducing 2 new variables. And these variables are gonna be for horizontal positioning of each one, and we're gonna change it every time so that it moves to the other one after the first one is drawn. So I'm gonna call this dx, which is for each dice, and for dy for the other one. Okay, let's now it's not gonna be initialized, so let's call that one throw dice. Throw dice. I don't know, I can't do that way. I'm gonna save that one, and I'm gonna change it in here so that it actually gets called every time I click. So let's just check. Okay, everything looks fine. Okay, now this X and Y, we're gonna actually draw the first dice with using these values. We're gonna give the values to the original dice X and Y, and after we draw one, before drawing another one, we're gonna push it or offset that one horizontally by 150 or 200, so that it goes to the so that it moves just in front of that one horizontally, I mean. And then we're gonna draw that again, so without actually having to recode everything, which is gonna sound silly. Okay, so simply before we draw that one, I'm just gonna say this is gonna be dice X and dy is gonna be dice Y. And now we're gonna actually draw that one. After we draw the first dice, we're gonna push that one by 150, for instance, or simply just say dice X plus 150, or yeah, 150 works fine. Dy, and then it's gonna be dice Y plus 150. I think we're gonna keep it on the same Y level. I don't want it to be pushed down, so we're gonna keep it on the same level. But I need to call the dice roll again so that both of them has different results, different random pseudo random results. So yeah, now I'm gonna just draw the face again, and everything will work fine. So I'm just gonna recopy that. Okay, if I did it now, nothing is gonna actually change since we haven't updated the draw face. Now every dice X and dice Y will gonna have to be replaced with dx and dy so that they change for the other dice. So okay, let's copy that one. It's gonna be dx and dy. Everything will change for that, and we're gonna update it for everything. I don't know, we can do find and go with everyone. So if you can do that one, you can actually have to just use the find, Control F. Okay, we're gonna update every dice one. Okay, dice. Okay, I think those are the last two. We're gonna have that one. If you miss something, it's definitely gonna be an issue. Okay, and so that we actually update for everything. Now if I actually try, everything works fine. We have 2 dices with random results and random outcomes that we can actually predict. So that's the concept of the game. So now let's try to now this is just a random generator. Let's now deal with the user, the player who's going to play this game. And we're going to do that simply by introducing the game's logic, or just how we're actually going to do just the results and everything. So for that, we're going to go to the HTML. We're going to insert a new form, for instance. So I'm going to say in here a new form to be drawn. So okay, I can just, let's do the new form first so that we can actually go to it. Okay, so for the new form, we're going to use the form tag that way. And using the form, I'm going to give it a tag, for instance, to actually refer to it if you want to style it in CSS. So I can just say name, and I'm going to keep the name up, for instance, so that I easily refer to its elements and the JavaScript. So now I can give it a tag with form, for instance, that way. Okay. Now in the form, I can simply use a name, for instance. So the first thing that's going to be in here is the stage that specifies if we are in the first row or the second one. And as you see in the intro, we can have this hint, or so that we actually throw a follow-up throw dice. So simply I can just say the name, and I can add the columns that way. And I'm going to have to specify an input. Now this input will have a different name, for instance. So that one is going to be stage, so that we can easily refer to that. And we can give it a value of, let's say, first throw, which is the initial state of the game before we actually throw anything. Okay, we can close that with the closing tag like that. Okay, now let's do the same thing for the other response. This one is going to be the point. We're going to add an input, for instance. We can close that one, and we can give it a name. It's going to be point like that, or simply let's call it BV, since I did that in the previous one. And value, which is the point value. And now in value, it's going to be an empty one, so I can just have just one tab, for instance. Okay. Now the other than the point, we're going to have an outcome, and this outcome is simply just going to return the value of you win or you lose. So you lost or you won. So simply I'm going to say outcome and input. Okay, I don't know why I used that. Okay, name, it's going to be outcome, and the value is going to be determined later. So okay, just say okay. While I'm doing this, just tab, right? Just keep that one the same. Okay. 2 tabs in here. Okay. And lastly, we're going to do the credit one. So I'm just going to get an input here for the credit, so that there's actually an end to that game. So simply I'm just going to say credit in here, and I'm going to give it a value. And that value is going to be 100 at first. This will be treated as a string. So 1 is going to be a character, 0 is going to be a character, and 0 as well. But we're going to change that to number. Okay, so now if we refresh everything, okay, I don't know why I saved that one. Save. Now we're having this throw dice and everything in stage. We can break before that one, so we can actually, I don't know why it's so close to that one. Okay. Throw dice, nothing shows up because we haven't updated anything. Okay, let's go to script.js so we can actually update the game's logic and everything. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do in here is add 2 variables. Since there's a first throw, we're going to add a new variable for the first turn. And this is going to be true. And the other one is for the point. So yeah. And now let's add the sum, since we're going to take the sum of these 2 dices. As I said in the intro, if you haven't watched that, you should go back to actually understand the game design and the storyline of this game. So we're going to add the sum in here. So the sum is simply going to take the value of the first dice roll. So I'm just going to say sum in here, and it's going to take the value of the first dice roll. Then we're going to have the other one, and we're going to add that one simply after we got the new dice roll, and we're gonna take the sum of both of them. So we can just say sum after taking the new dice roll before we actually draw it. It's fine, it doesn't matter, it's the same. So I can add that one like that. So it has the sum of these two dice rolls. Okay. So now since we did that, let's make an if statement. We're gonna make an if and if else as well for that condition. So this is, let's say it's the first turn, which is the first click on this game, first gameplay. So now I'm gonna have a switch one, and this switch is gonna take a sum condition. So and this switch, okay, I don't know why I did that. Okay. Now if we have a case of 7 or a case of 11, as I said, this is a win. So simply what we're gonna do in here is print a win in the outcome, which is simply, this is how we can actually define that by going to the document object of the DOM, as I said, and we're gonna access this form by its name. So we're gonna say .f and okay, that way. And then after the f, we're gonna access the element form, simply is the outcome, which is that one. And we're gonna give it a value, so simply just say value, and I'm gonna say you win, like that. And we're gonna break, of course, since we finished this case. Now the other cases in which I lose in it, so simply it's gonna be 2 and 3 and 12. So case 2 and case 3. If I wrote cases like that, it's just like an or. So simply I can just say case 12, and I can copy that one since it's gonna be in the same value, and you lose. I'll just give it exclamation one exclamation mark. Okay, so that's for actually these two cases, if I win or I lose. Now let's talk about the other possibilities or other outcomes. It's going to be presented by the default statement. If none of these cases are satisfied, it's going to go to the default one. I'm going to give the point the sum value, in which is this value that you show. If I actually didn't get any of those cases, I'm going to get a number in point. I hope you saw that in the beginning or the intro one. And simply what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to with document, and we're going to access the bf, which is the point value in here, and I'm going to give it a value so that we can actually see the point or the sum of these dice in the point. And after that, we're just going to turn off, simply just turn false the first, and since we're actually going to throw again, so it's not going to be the first one, and so that we actually get out of this statement. Okay, now simply we have to update that stage. Since I got that point, I'm gonna tell the player to actually follow up this the first turn with another dice or a follow-up dice. So I can just say document, and I can say affect stage. Since I called that stage in the name, you can play with the names, it's fine. I'm gonna give it a value, and I'm gonna say need follow-up throw, like that. Okay, so that he actually clicks on the throw dice again. And lastly, we're just gonna give the outcome a null, so that it doesn't have any value, so that's not left out. Come and value, and it's gonna be okay, space, like that. Okay, now what we're gonna do is for the else. Let's say this is not the first turn, since we finished that one, so we're gonna go with the else one. Okay, now for the else one, we're gonna have another switch for the sum one. Okay, so as I said, in the second dice, the only way to actually win this is to get the same point, and to lose that I have to get 7. Why specifically 7? I don't know, that's the game design, so it's 7. So either I get the point that I got from the previous throw, or simply just lose by getting 7. So I can keep throwing that dice until I get one of these two values. So let's say case point, which is the sum that we actually specified in here. So I have to get that again to actually win this game. And we're gonna just say 1 in here, so dot f, and the outcome, and give it a value, which is this outcome. And we're gonna say you win, same as that one. And simply after you win, we're just gonna update all of the other stage and everything. So it's document f stage, and we're gonna give it a value, and that value is gonna be back to first throw. So that matches the intro version that I did. And now we can go to f and bf, which is the point value, and simply we're just gonna clear that one simply by initializing it with a value space, with a null like that. Okay, and then we're just gonna give first to, I'm gonna give it a value of 2, since the player is gonna play again. Until now we haven't used the credit one. I'm gonna leave that until the end, we can update it easily. Okay, so then we break after this case. And now let's talk about the other case, which is 7. So that when I get case 7, I'm actually gonna lose. So I'm just gonna copy all of those to update them. Okay, that's you. It's gonna be you lose. And we're just gonna set back to the first row as usual, and we're gonna null the value, and we're actually gonna clear that one too back to the first row, since we're actually just losing the game and gonna start again. Okay, I think this is it. If I'm not missing anything, I think this is the everything that we need to know. So let's start actually play the game. Okay, so I haven't used the credit one. I'm gonna update that now. So if I'm gonna throw the dice, I got an 8. See, I didn't get either 7 or 11, so I'm not winning. I didn't get 2, 3, and 12, so I'm not losing. So the only way to win is to actually get 8. If I get 7, I'm gonna lose. It's an easy, simple game. You're gonna just have to understand it. So I'm gonna throw. I got a 6, very close. Okay, I got 8, so I win the game. Okay, let's back to the first throw and play again. Oh, we haven't cleared the outcome in the win. See, this is the debug stage. So simply, if I win, I'm just gonna clear the outcome. You win, and I'm gonna true. Everything looks fine. Throw the dice. Follow-up throw. Okay, you win, you lose again, so it's gonna be updated from the previous one. Okay, so document stage, I think we're gonna have to update that one each time. Okay, so now let's talk about the credit and how we can actually alter that one simply by okay, this in this two dice we can introduce a new variable above that one, and we can say credit. Now, as I said, in this value, in this input, this is treated as string, so we're gonna get the number of that one simply by calling number, like that. This is JavaScript. I don't want to go into details, but to actually get the number from a string value like that one, which is treated as characters, we're gonna have to use number and refer to that element with the document f and its credit, and we're gonna access its value that way, simply. Okay, now let's say that if the credit is less than 10, which means that we can't pay for another play, another dice, throwing dice. I'm just gonna alert that one and say you ran out of money, as seen in the intro. You ran out of money, and add some more and try again. Of course, you can refresh that one, but it's just a game, so. Okay, and simply return, so that it's just we finished that one to return without actually doing anything. And then what we're gonna do in here is simply we're gonna update the value, the credit one, something like that. I can just go to document and f.credit, and we're gonna give it a value, and I can return that to a string again using this credit. So as you can see, if I want to take a value from an input, I'm going to have to use number to actually, if it's a number, and if I'm going to pass another value into this input value, I'm going to use string. I hope that makes sense, because this is JavaScript. I don't want to go into details, but I think I did. So yeah. And lastly, we're going to have to update. So every time now, until now, I'm not doing anything. I'm just specifying the credit to update it every time. So now let's say that I win. I'm gonna gain 20. So I'm just gonna increase the value of credit in here to an actual 20. So I can just say 20, okay, in here. So I can just say credit. It's gonna be number, and I'm just gonna copy that one. Credit value that way, and I'm gonna increase that credit 20. So every time I win, I'm gonna get 20 credits. So let's try to actually do this by simply changing the 2 dice rolls. So I'm gonna get 2, and the other one is I'm gonna get 5, so that I get 7. So now if I throw dice, I win. Okay, this didn't change. I don't know why, but I think because we haven't returned that one, so simply I can just say again. Okay, first dice, I got 120. That way, and I win. Okay, nice. If I get again, I'm gonna increase up the since I'm actually using this to pass 20 in here, so I can just return the dice roll into normal, back to normal. Okay. Copy another thing. Copy that one and give it the other dice rolls. Okay, so I have it. Okay. Now this is a random one. So that, okay. Okay, now that's in the case of when we actually win, and I'm gonna do the same thing for the other round. I'm having a different round, for instance. I win, back to stage throw, and I'm gonna give it a value after that one. So if I won on the second one, okay, I won on the first one. I won now at 140 again. See. Okay, now I think we should actually take an amount of money for actually playing this game, which is simply supposed to be in here. Now what we're gonna do is simply credit, and we're gonna minus that one so that we're actually using our money. Okay, so yeah, let's say that I'm gonna, every time that I'm gonna play, I'm just gonna increase that value by 20. So every time I click on the dice, because I haven't updated that one. Okay. Okay, throw dice. See, now everything's updated. And I win. Okay, let's say that I lose. Nothing's gonna happen. We're gonna take another 20, but it's not gonna get anything. So I'm just gonna say here, I lost. Okay, I lost. I'm gonna throw again and play again. So it's gonna be 5. I got 5. I didn't take any 20, so it's just okay. If I want to play again, I'm just gonna go. Okay, I win. I got another 20. So I lost now. I got another 20. Okay, I kept actually winning. So okay, now that is simply everything about the game. You can actually alter the behavior of that game by changing the credit or coming up with a new use of these dices. That's not supposed to be the point or stage or outcome. You have to be creative with that. And yeah, this is actually the game itself. I'm gonna leave the game in. I open actually a GitHub for this channel, so I can just say GitHub, and you guys can access that one by. I'm gonna leave a reference to that in comment, which is my GitHub. If I use that, I'm gonna have a new repository in here which has this code, and I'll see you in the next episode, which is simply gonna be another game. So yeah. I'll see you in the next one.